will be discussing the learning theory of constructivism today, explaining its key features as well as key strengths and limitations. Constructivism is underpinned by the idea that meaning is constructed by the learner. This is a quote from the Duquesne textbook, meaning that learners and students bring something with them to the learning experience. Now, this stands in opposition to the earlier behavioural theories of learning, which tended to be built upon the idea that students were blank slates, just waiting to be filled up with the information that we could give them. This is where constructivism differs and moves on from such theories. It acknowledges the previous learning and experience that contributes to how students understand new information. Constructivism views learning as developmental, with children building upon increasingly complex cognitive structures. You can see it's like a building block process. One form of constructivism is psychological constructivism, which is primarily concerned with the individual and the ways that individuals construct their knowledge, beliefs, and identities while learning. Here, the importance of the social environment in the learning process is acknowledged, but the role of the individual learner is seen as central. The second stream of constructivism is known as social constructivism, which, as the name suggests, holds the view that social interaction shapes cognitive development. Here, the locus, as Duquesne calls it, is not simply on the individual learner, but that students learn and develop through interaction with their peers and their environment. This is a very social view of learning, as the name suggests, concerned with the environment of interaction and collaboration. So, what can we say about constructivism? There are a few key features. Firstly, constructivist thinking and classrooms are ones in which students are active participants in their learning. Here, the teacher doesn't just stand up the front of the classroom and fill the jugs, so to speak, while students sit and listen. Rather, in constructivist classrooms, students learn by doing, using, and building upon their previous experience, and the teacher is the facilitator of learning. Secondly, social interaction is necessary for effective learning, which means that students in constructivist classrooms are probably not sitting at individual desks in rows and working silently. Instead, the constructivist teacher would organise the classroom in an open way, which would facilitate the type of collaborative learning activities that constructivism encourages. Thirdly, constructivism holds that students can be self-regulated in their learning, meaning that students are taught the skills they need to be able to assess their own progress and make learning decisions for themselves. Now, there is empirical evidence to support the direct relationship between social interaction and collaboration and learning outcomes, which makes a constructivist approach an effective and viable teaching strategy. There are significant positive effects of this sort of classroom approach, namely the benefits to learning outcomes. A study by White and Chaparro in 2008 measured the correlation between social competencies and learning outcomes, which established a direct link between social interaction and learning. Furthermore, another strength of constructivism is that students are active participants in their own learning, which means that they don't have to sit passively and just receive information all day. This means the constructivist classroom is full of discussion and collaboration and teamwork. In addition, constructivism acknowledges the prior learning and background experiences that students bring to the classroom. This means an acknowledgement that even though students are being taught the same things, their understanding of new knowledge will be relative to their experience. Lastly, a major strength of constructivism is that it values and encourages open dialogue between students and the teacher to improve the learning process, which can only be positive for learning outcomes. Now, the limitations of constructivism are mostly concerned with the practicality of setting up and managing a constructivist classroom, which can be both challenging and time-consuming for the teacher. Following from this, the teacher's role in the constructivist classroom is to facilitate this collaborative learning, which means that the teacher is actually more involved than ever. They're closely monitoring the collaboration and carefully scaffolding the learning process. In addition, and importantly, possibly most importantly, the open discovery style learning process of constructivist classrooms can be very beneficial for some students, the self-motivated and confident students. However, it can be frustrating and discouraging for less motivated and possibly struggling students. So this is something to keep an eye on. The constructivist theory fits very well with my idea of effective teaching. I particularly value the emphasis on active participation of students in their own learning and on social interaction and group work. I remember doing a lot of group work in school, both in primary school and high school, even though I was much more reluctant to do group work at high school. I also have my own experience as a facilitator slash tutor. Um, I work with groups of Year 5 and 6 students at my local primary school where I teach advanced writing and literacy skills. I use a lot of group work in my sessions. The groups are fairly small, about 4 or 5 kids at a time, so this works really well. We have group discussions, we do collaborative group tasks, and the kids give each other feedback on their work. Most of the group work is centered around the kids creating something together, which is really effective. So this can be the creation of a shared story, for instance. When they're working in a group or in pairs, they're clearly engaged and participating actively in the learning process. So it's easy to see how collaboration works as a learning tool. Through discussion and collaborations, the students are learning from each other and they work out concepts together. It's a hands-on way for them to work through new ideas, and it's very effective. I have to monitor the group work throughout. I manage distractions, and I guide them back onto task when they get sidetracked. I decide how much time they spend on each task, and I facilitate group discussions at the end. This means that I'm not at the whiteboard talking to them the whole time. In fact, I'm not at the front of the class for very much time at all. Instead, the kids learn from doing the activities with instruction from me, which is a super effective way of teaching new concepts. Their understanding of new ideas is better, and I think they learn more and more effectively through this constructivist approach. Now, in conclusion, constructivism is a learning theory that values the contribution of the student to the learning process, which is something that I really value. It makes them active participants in their learning. It is a more student-centered approach to teaching and learning, which puts the learner at the center of the learning process. Constructivism also emphasizes the social aspects of learning and how valuable group collaboration can be. And so I think it's a very effective approach to learning. Thank you for listening.